Right, so I'm going to be starting installing my glass window now. As you can see, this is before I put the liner in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the glass into the recess, use sealant to seal it in, and then I'm actually going to stick the liner to the outside of the glass rather than sandwiching it. The rebating here is the same thickness as the glass, so it'll be a nice sort of smooth transition between the liner and the glass. So it keeps any creases out of the liner and hopefully should make it easier to seal. I've got my glass there. It comes with these blue little spacers, which are quite handy. I'm using that as a packer just to sort of support the weight of the glass while it dries. The sealant I'm using for this is Ideal Seal MS290. I've been told, not sure how true it is, that this is the same stuff as Gold Label but without the coy tax. I used it on my bottom drain last time and that worked absolutely fine. I'm using it on my bottom drain this time, so fingers crossed that'll be alright. So yeah, I'm gonna smother this in sealant along here, push the glass into the recess, and then I've got a couple of clamps to hold it at the top, and I've got a suction one which I'll put on at the bottom and hopefully hold that tight against there. Right, so I put a couple of thick beads of silicone all the way around. To be honest, I don't really know if that's enough, too much, or what. We're just going to have to give it a go. I've used about a tube and a half of sealant to do that. Obviously there will be this gap on here and there I'll actually fill in afterwards, because the glass, there'll be about a 5mm gap there, so I'll be able to get the sealant down that gap afterwards. Alright, let's get the glass in. Right, so the glass is pressed in. I just need to pull it with this clamp. One thing I have done, I've gone a bit stingy on the sealant. I should have put a much thicker bead, because obviously the sleepers are not quite as flat as I thought they would be. You can see it's only actually pressed into it on a small bit on that side. It's much better on the sides. The only thing I can really do is pump sealant down the inside from the outside. This bit doesn't have to be a watertight seal, as the liner is going to be sealed across the front of it, so hopefully it won't affect it too much. But it certainly got me worrying a little bit. I'm nearly wishing I'd not bothered doing a window, but hopefully we get it sealed in the end. Oh dear. Right, so I think I've managed to salvage it. I've pumped loads of sealant down the edge and down the other side of the glass from the inside. It does look like it's stuck most of the way around. As I say, this isn't the bit that has to be watertight, because the liner will be sealed to the front of the glass. The only issue I have got now is because the sleepers aren't perfectly straight, it doesn't sit quite flush at this bottom corner. So it's just going to mean I'm going to have to get some in just to fill that gap there, so that sits nice and flush, so the liner can seal across the front of it. And then to make matters worse, it started peeing it down with rain and all my filling up with water again. If anybody's thinking of doing this, just don't do it at this time of year. It's too much hard work. It's just muddy and messy and horrible. And another thing I'd say is go heavy on the sealant. I thought I'd put quite a lot on, but because the gap wasn't perfectly level, I needed to pump loads and loads of sealant in to make up for that. I think I've rescued it now, but time will tell when I go to seal the liner. Fingers crossed it'll be alright. I've got that clamp on there tied and sort of twisted to make that nice and tight, so it pulls this bottom in as much as possible, and then it's clamped at the top as well. This sealant is meant to dry underwater, so hopefully it will still dry with a little bit of rain. It's not ideal. It wasn't forecast at all today. But on the plus side, I've managed to do it without getting any sealant on the actual viewing area of the glass. That's something at least. Right, so today's the day I'm going to try and seal my glass to the Boxweld liner. If you haven't seen all the clips of me putting the Boxweld liner, the bottom drain, the skimmer and everything else in, please check out the other videos first. But yeah, how I'm going to be fixing it is there's a rebate or sort of a wooden frame under there which the glass is sitting in, so it sits flush with this insulation. Just covered the gap up with a bit of duct tape, and it's pretty simple really. All I'm going to do is put several thick beads of silicone all the way around, push the liner up against it, give it a bit of a wiggle round, just make sure it's nice and sealed. Then I'll put a couple of clamps on here just to stop the liner moving. The plan is that I'll leave it for at least 24 hours and then I'll trim the liner back, and I'll just sort of peel up the edges and then put a final bit of silicone around the sort of just under the edge to make sure it's sealed down. We'll give it a go. This is the bit that I've been nervous about doing the whole way, because most people tend to sandwich the liner between the glass, but I've decided to do it this way just because I think it will actually make it a little bit easier to seal, because the liner will sit flush against the glass and there'll be no creases like there is when you fold it behind. That's the plan anyway. So right, let's get some sealant on the back of that glass. I think I've got 3 tubes of sealant and I intend to use them all. Right, so that's all the sealant put in all the way around. Now it's literally just a case of pulling up the liner and pushing it against it. I'm going to sort of wiggle it around a little bit just to make sure it gets all the air gaps out, but I'm not going to push it totally flat because I want there to be a thick bead of silicone between the glass and the liner. Well, it's stuck down, there's not really much to see here. I'm going to leave it a good 24 hours and then I'm going to trim the liner back around the glass and then just have a little look under the edge and put a little bit more sealant just around the edges. I'll catch you in a couple of days when it's dried. Right, so the sealant's had a couple of days to dry. Sorry if there's a bit of wind noise today, it is really windy. I'm actually filling up the pond now at the moment. I'm going to fill it up to just below the window, and then we'll we won't fill it right up to the top today. So like I say, I've trimmed the liner around the glass, you can't see it. The bead of silicone that I put in there is all nice and dry, and as you can see it's bonded the liner to the glass pretty well all the way around. But because I did it a little bit back from the edge, obviously there is a little bit of a gap there. So what I'm going to do today is just fill that gap with a bit more sealant. In theory I could fill it right to the top as it is, see if this will focus, and that should be sealed all the way around. But I'll get that next bit of sealant in just so it sort of sits flush with the top, and you shouldn't see any of that from the front when it's done. So that's the final bead of silicone done. The liner's now stuck to the glass all the way around. I haven't pushed it totally flat. I want to keep a nice thick bead of silicone in between the liner and the glass. I'm going to give that another 24 hours to set, fill it up to the top and see what happens. Fingers crossed no leaks. I think it'll be absolutely fine, but obviously it's a little bit nervy. So yeah, I'll come back to you tomorrow when we're filling up. Right, so it's the day of the big fill. As you can see, we're most of the way there now. I've got the air dome running. Up above the window. So far so good. So I won't know for definite whether or not it's leaking until I've got it full and leave it overnight, because if it is leaking behind the liner, it will go behind the liner, not in front of it, so I won't necessarily see any water on here, but so far it looks good anyway. You can see the aerated bottom drain working away there. I'm really pleased I put this window in. It's been a lot of hassle, but yeah, I think it's going to look really good. The coping I'm going to have on top, I'm not sure whether I'm going to cut it and have the glass as an infinity edge or leave it the whole way across the top. I don't know yet. I'll wait till it's full and then I'll perhaps decide. I won't screw it down until I know. But yeah, it's all looking good under there. Glad I went with the Boxweld liner. It means there's no creases, no ripples in the liner, so I'm really pleased with that. But yeah, I'll come back to you when it's full, and we'll see if there's any leaks. Right guys, so it's actually a couple of days later than that last clip. As you can see, the pond is full and now running. Fish are actually in. There's been no leaks on the window. Seems to have totally sealed. That bit of water there is just, I splashed that a few minutes ago. So yeah, in terms of installing the window, it's all worked out really well. But I have had quite a few problems getting all the filtration set up, and I even managed to get an electric shock off the water. But I'll tell you guys all about that in another video. There's going to be a few videos on bits and bobs sorting out, so keep an eye out for them. But I just want to thank everyone that's liked and subscribed to my channel recently. I think I've just passed over the 1,000 subscribers. I will be doing a giveaway at some point once I've managed to get everything sorted. I've still got quite a lot of things I still need to sort out. I've got all the copings to sort out. As you can see, all my K1 is currently in a big sack there, and again I'll explain more about that in another video. But the window's sealed and the fish are out of their temporary pool and in their new home, which is the main thing. You can also see there's a lot of mud and sand which I've managed to accidentally get into the pond, which is all on the bottom at the moment. I'm gonna have to get a brush or something and sweep that down the drain or vac it out. I'll get that sorted at some point. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled for the next video. I'll probably have it out, I don't know, it might be a few days, might be about a week, not sure yet. But yeah, so far so good with the pond. I'm really impressed with how it's turned out. The window looks brilliant. I'm so glad I put it in. It's been a lot of stress and a lot of hassle, but yeah, it's totally worth it. In terms of the structure of the pond, I've had no bowing on the sleepers at all. Everything's pretty solid. Well, so maybe this sleeper here is kicked out by 2 mil, but that's it. It all looks pretty solid to me. I don't think I'm gonna have any problems with it bowing out. So yeah, it just shows you can do sleepers on their edge. It does work, and you can fit a window with a sleeper pond as well. Hopefully it stays sealed. Yeah, let's give you a last look at the fish. They certainly seem to be loving their new home. Anyway, thanks for watching guys. Give it a thumbs up and I'll see you in the next one.